Hi, my name is Yasu, and I'm a licensed and a registered real estate agent in Japan. Today, I want to explain how much you can borrow from a bank in Japan for your mortgage, housing loan, because that's going to help you to understand how much down payment you should have if there are specific condo or house that you have in your mind to purchase as your home in Japan, and also how to plan better, because knowing how much you can get from the bank for your financing option, it's going to give you a very realistic idea and which area, how old your property needs to be, and so on, so that you're not going to aim for which is completely out of your budget. So in Japan, usually the maximum that people can get from banks for housing loan is 10 times of their annual income in this country. So which means that if I make 10 million Japanese yen annually as my salary, then banks would be willing to lend up to 100 million Japanese yen for my mortgage. So that's kind of gives you a very simple idea that if you're, let's say, if you're making 7 million Japanese yen annually in Japan, most likely the maximum that you can borrow is 70 million Japanese yen. If you have some property in your mind, or I really want this unit, the condo, and then this is going to cost you 80 million Japanese yen, then you need to have 10 million Japanese yen cash, and then with your annual salary of 7 million Japanese yen, you can borrow 70 million Japanese yen, and then combining everything, 80 million Japanese yen. It's just so simple calculations. In reality, this is going to cost you a little bit more because you need to pay registration tax, mortgage acquisition tax, brokerage fee, and everything. So it's going to cost you more than 80 million Japanese yen. But just to give you an idea that if you're aiming to buy 80 million Japanese yen, however, your annual income is 7 million Japanese yen, and you can borrow maximum is 70 million Japanese yen, then what you need to do is you need to have 10 million Japanese yen in your bank accounts to make that happen. However, I don't recommend you to do so because many things happen in life, and especially nowadays in Japan, and then also in other almost all the countries, we are all facing inflation. Everything is just keep going up. And then unlike some countries in the world, in Japan, we don't really see or can get salary raise as much as what people can get in different countries. And it might take longer for you to get the salary raise and everything. So if you borrow as much as you can and then buy the property, you need to basically like monthly expenses. You make money to pay off your mortgage. That's how your life would become. And you might feel that that's okay because I found my dream home in Japan. It's my dream to live in such a place. And that's why I stretched as much as possible to borrow as much as possible to buy this home for myself. So I'm happy about it. I'm so happy to live in that property. So I don't regret. You might say it, and then so many people have said that. However, after 1 year, that ideal dream home of yours, it becomes part of your life. Nothing new. But life goes on. Many things happen. You change, your lifestyle changes. And you might feel that there are so many things that you want to do, like investing more, or you want to travel more, you want to study more, or you have a new hobby and that requires you to spend some money. But if you stretch to think because of the mortgage and because of the difficult situation in Japan for you to expect higher salary raise, then your life is all about paying the mortgage. That can happen. To avoid that situations, I usually recommend my clients to borrow up to 7 times of their annual salary in Japan. So for example, let's say I make 5 million Japanese yen in this country. And if I borrow as much as possible, which is 10 times of my annual salary, then my budget would be 50 million Japanese yen. However, if I go with only up to 7 times of my annual salary, then my budget is gonna be much lower, which is 35 million Japanese yen. And with 35 million Japanese yen budget, what I can get is very different from what I can get with 50 million Japanese yen budget. But even though that is the case, I really still recommend and ask my clients to consider going with that lower budget, because life is not about only buying a dream house. There's so much more in life to enjoy. And unfortunately, we live in a capitalism world that if we don't have money, we might miss the opportunity to do so. And I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to miss that. But if you, let's say, insist that having that dream house is the most important things to you and it means the most to you, then I'm not gonna stop you, because we all value things differently. But as a professional real estate agent, I propose different views. I'm not forcing people to choose my way. So I really don't stop people to borrow as much as possible if that's what they want. But whenever we discuss about budgeting and everything, working with banks, with clients, that's what I recommend. 7 times of the annual salary, that should be really the maximum, not 10 times. So if you work in Japan, pay income tax. And you're thinking, someday I may want to have I may want to buy property in Japan. It might be a good idea for you to contact your bank that with your current situation of your visa and annual salary in this country, how much possible you can get. And based on your potential budget, what you can afford to purchase. And it gives you an idea. You really don't have to buy it right now, but knowing how much you can get from your bank, and if you can really get the financing option from bank, then you can plan better. If you feel that, okay, now I can borrow 50 million Japanese yen, but with the budget, what I can afford, I don't like what I see in the market right now, then what you can do is find a way to get a promotion, make more money, so that you can borrow more money to be able to afford your ideal home in Japan. Or if you feel that with your current working environment and the situations, even 5 years from now, you don't really see yourself getting a lot of salary raise, then what you can do is start saving money, investing, and then create the more bigger down payment so that by the time you're ready to buy, and even though your salary is not high enough to borrow to get the ideal budget, but if you have down payment, by using the down payment, what you can borrow should be enough to buy your ideal home. But yeah, I personally don't recommend people to borrow up to 10 times of their annual salary. It's too risky, and it's just, there are just so many ways to enjoy life. Yeah. that's just my opinion. And But I like I said, I don't stop my clients to go for it. But if you encounter real estate agent and you're not even sure how much your budget would be, and then you go through like pre-screening with your bank, and then you figure out how much you can possibly borrow, and then let's say the maximum that you can borrow is 80 million Japanese yen, and then you let your agent know your budget. And if your agent keep pushing you, go for 80 million Japanese yen, nothing lower, because 80 million Japanese yen properties are much better. And if your agent does not propose any other options, you might want to be careful, because a real estate agent's commission is structured based on the property price. So we are incentivized that if clients buy higher property, if clients buy more expensive properties, then we can get more higher commission. So of course, it will be much better if our clients buy more expensive properties because we can get more higher commissions. But it doesn't really mean that you can get better options. You have your own life. Having an ideal home, living there with yourself, by yourself, or with your family, with someone else, with pets, it's just only a part of your life, not everything about your life. So borrowing a decent amount of money to purchase ideal, decent home, and your mortgage is not really hurting your monthly spending, and you have extra every month to invest or to go out dining, to go out with your family, with your friends, go travel, do some hobbies. That's life. So if your agent just keep pushing you to buy more expensive properties within your budget, then you really need to be careful. They should make a proposal to you that maximum budget, this kind of property, 70 million, 60 million. As budget goes down, property types and everything changes. This is a pro and con. What kind of decisions would you like to make? And of course, the agents are entitled to give you advices and suggestions. But you really need someone by your side to give you options with pro and con, not just one option, the most expensive thing within your budget. That's not they're giving you a choice. It's if your agent does that, then it's more like he or she is really pushing you to buy. And you need to think this way, which is from agent's perspectives, if you buy, commission, and then they are actually look for more other clients to purchase. for you. Once you buy a home, it becomes your life, part of your life. It stays with you for a long time, maybe forever. So you really have to be careful with all of the decisions that you make. And that is why I keep telling people that you buy only if you really like it. And you might feel like, but if I lower the budget, the quality of the properties is going to go lower as well. Then would I ever find those property that makes me feel like this is it? You don't really have to worry about that, because higher budget, middle budget, lower budget, I've seen many clients. There is always the moment with all of the different clients that this is it. They always have that moment. So you don't really have to worry about that. So yeah, summarize this video once again is you can borrow up to 10 times of your annual salary for your housing loan. So if you make 7 million Japanese yen, you can borrow up to 70 million Japanese yen. However, I don't recommend. Maximum should be 7 times of your annual salary. So if you make 7 million Japanese yen, then your max budget should be 49 million Japanese yen. But if it's so important, then aiming for maximum 10 times of your salary to be your budget might make sense. So it's really up to you. And then other thing that you need to be kind of worried about is interest rate is keep increasing in this country. So that's gonna put the pressure on how much you can borrow, because how it works is when the interest rate goes up, then your borrowing power becomes weaker, which means you can borrow less. So you need to consider the part as well, because what you can borrow right now, the amount that you can borrow right now, most likely not be the same if you try to borrow a year from now, because most likely we would actually have a higher interest rate next year around the time, based on how everything has been happening so far. So be careful about that too. Anyway, thank you for watching. じゃあね。